Who's your ideal client? Who do you work with? Beginning speakers, or do you want a seasoned vet?
Our preface and really what puts us both in a position to win is people with a solidified message, but making sure that, if a speaker feels really confident, owns their space, owns their message, owns their niche, then we can help take that to the next level.
They need to pick a lane.
Pick a lane, exactly.
Pick a lane and stick to it. Hey, and welcome to SpeakerLife. I'm your host, Lea Woodford, and with me today is Conner Krizancic, and you guys are going to love him. He's a young gun with a company called SpeakrBrand. Welcome to the show, Conner.
Oh, thank you so much, Lea. Pleasure to be here.
Okay, so SpeakrBrand.
Yes.
Let's talk SpeakrBrand. What is that?
It's right down the middle, right in the company name. And our core focus is truly to build personal brands for keynote speakers, for thought leaders, for executives. And the mission behind SpeakrBrand is to amplify the voices of those who positively change the world.
Wow, I love that. Now, what inspired you to start SpeakrBrand?
So we just briefly told the story off camera, but it really goes back to my college days. I was a college football athlete. I was playing quarterback at Ohio University and suffered my 5th concussion and a brain bleed, a subarachnoid hemorrhage in the right side of my brain. And then 21st birthday, they said, no more physical sports. And that was the beginning of a, short, dark period of my life, and, felt lost, confused, wasn't sure what to do next. And I'm sure any athlete can relate, is your sport that you love is such a integral part of your identity. So it took me a while to evolve, but when that evolution or the page started to turn was getting introduced to Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V. And
Gary V. We all know and love Gary V.
Gary V's the man, and he really did. He changed my life. I started to dive into all of his content, his methodologies, the power of being an entrepreneur and betting on yourself, and then tactically the power of social media and building a personal brand. So when I was in college, that was really when I started to begin on SpeakrBrand, filed the LLC about 5 days after I graduated college. And then shortly after that, met one keynote speaker named Paul Epstein, former NFL, NBA guy, and reminded me so much of Gary Vaynerchuk. And really from there, I just fell in love with the work, the space, and working with people with a powerful message on their heart.
Well, can I just say, I love your brand. It's funny because Dave Sanderson, he's a mutual client of ours. Mm-hmm. And I really believe in the power of connection. And I've been watching what you've been doing with Dave. And can you tell us what you do for speakers, especially when it comes to your LinkedIn program?
Yeah, absolutely.
That is really fascinating.
Absolutely. And we have a overarching framework for any speaker. Of course, it's going to be customized for each individual speaker, but we call it the STEP framework. And the STEP framework designed for speakers, thought leaders, is our mindset or methodology for content. And STEP stands for storytelling, thought leadership, engaging, personal, and promotional. The P's doubled up. So those 5 content buckets for the last 5 or 6 years or so, we've really, ironed it out to, if you get really, really good, stay consistent in those 5 areas, you're going to create a humanized thought leadership brand. People are going to know, like, trust you, and of course, understand what you do and how to book you.
Now, who's your ideal client? Who do you work with? Beginning speakers, or do you want a seasoned vet?
It's a great question. We get that a lot. I would say speakers from early on that haven't stepped on a stage before to multi-million-dollar speakers. But our preface and really what puts us both in a position to win is people with a solidified message. The only time that we have a challenge of working with speaker, really getting that message out there powerfully, is if the message is fluctuating between, let's say, leadership and company culture and AI, but making sure that, if a speaker feels really confident, owns their space, owns their message, owns their niche, then we can help take that to the next level.
They need to pick a lane.
Pick a lane, exactly.
Pick a lane and stick to it. So what do you see as one of the biggest challenges for not even just new speakers, but, let's just say post-COVID? We really haven't fully recovered since COVID.
Mm-hmm. It's been a challenge. And then on the speaking side, going from virtual to in-person. But I also think the biggest, and this is one thing that's helped grow SpeakrBrand, is 20% of my time is spent as the fractional chief marketing officer at Gotham Artists Speakers Bureau. So it's been really nice to see, get insider view inside of a bureau, what's going on, the trends, etc. And the most challenging thing for a speaker that we've seen in the past few years is the time of booking decreasing exponentially, where,
Wow.
Pre-COVID, speakers were able to book their calendar 6, 12 months in advance. They knew exactly what, when they can travel, when they can't, what events they're going to come up to. But now we've seen speakers get booked for an event next week. Honest to God, even in 2025, a couple of speakers that we're working with have, 5-6 day turnaround to customize the message, to plan travel. So for speakers, really having that superpower of being agile and flexible is much needed.
So flexibility is the name of the game.
Without a doubt, being able to navigate that change.
We talked about, I know that you've really helped Dave with his LinkedIn and you've done an amazing job. What's the number one strategy, do you think, for speakers to use on LinkedIn?
It's a great question. I'm not sure if there's one silver bullet, but I would say the STEP framework, that's a nice framework to use. And then also as speakers, going heavy on video. And not every speaker can have a beautiful studio like this to shoot content in. But even if it's a selfie video of, picking up your camera, recording a Zoom call, but as an event planner, as a conference director, as somebody that's vetting speakers and wanting to book you as a speaker, they really do need to, hear your voice, hear your message, and then start to connect those dots of, even if it's behind a camera on your phone, that still is very relevant and applicable to how you'll be on stage.
So how important is a good speaker demo reel?
Crucial. I mean, I think it's one of those one or two assets. I think, I'd say the number one most important asset, to be honest with you, is a speaker reel. I mean, it's crucial. That's what we've seen at Gotham. If an event planner, if a potential buyer is vetting a speaker, that's the first thing that they ask for is please send over the demo reel. I'd say the website's great. Social content is amazing as well, but the demo reel will really get you in the door and accelerate those conversations.
Now, can we talk about personal brands?
Of course.
Speakers need to have a personal brand, and how do you help them work on their personal brand?
I think a lot of iteration, and I think the personal brand needs to feel authentic and comfortable to you. And one thing that we very much double down on is humanizing your brand, especially as thought leaders, as speakers, as New York Times bestselling authors. Speakers can sometimes get too on the thought leadership, data-driven, promotional side, which is fantastic. There should be that piece of that. But we're a huge fan of creating that connection, that relatability with showing your personal interests, hobbies, behind-the-scenes moments, a day in the life, sharing. Vulnerability is huge on social, of sharing when you've handled adversity, you've overcame challenges. But I think that's a big piece of building a personal brand, is creating that connection with humanized content.
What are some of the mistakes that you see with your clients that come through the door? What's your biggest headache?
I'd say biggest headache, or what we've seen on social, is back to those content buckets I discussed, is just going heavy in one or two of those, to where there's no variety in your content strategy. And for speakers, oftentimes we see only, event recaps or celebrating or promoting their upcoming events, where yes, that's great. That should be a piece of it, but making sure that you do have a variety of what you're talking about, your content categories. And then also the second piece of that is how you're delivering that content with different creative types. So videos, photos, graphics, quote cards, third-party articles. So making sure that you have a variety of what you're talking about and then how you're delivering that content.
Now, how often would you recommend that they post?
Platform specific, but for LinkedIn, 2 or 3 times a week. That's the ideal cadence that we've seen, and the algorithm changed in 2024, where less is more, and giving your post time to breathe at 24 to 48 hours.
I kind of love that.
Oh yeah, it's sustainable, it's consistent. That's
everybody can do a couple of times a week.
A couple posts a week is perfect, and it's vastly different. One thing that I talk about in webinars, or if I'm ever on stage, is there's a supply and demand issue on LinkedIn that is so incredibly rare still for social, to where only 1% of users are posting weekly. There's 1 billion people on the platform. So a huge opportunity for organic reach. And then when you're comparing that to Instagram, TikTok, X, Twitter, Facebook, there's such a demand issue, where people are getting inundated with content, posting multiple times per day. So that's really the beauty of LinkedIn, is the opportunity for organic reach, and really to get massive amount of eyeballs on.
Well, I understand that LinkedIn is like the third largest search engine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Google, YouTube, LinkedIn.
Without a doubt.
So I've gotten booked off LinkedIn. People have seen my profile and booked me. How common would you say? That's the number one profile they look at, isn't it?
Without a doubt. That's what we've seen. We think it's important. It's nice to have an active presence on the other social channels, YouTube, Instagram, but LinkedIn for business decision making. Yeah. Yes, you can get booked through, leads coming in, but oftentimes what we see is during the vetting process.
They're looking at your LinkedIn.
That's the first place that they go is scroll down your activity on your LinkedIn.
And how much should they have like a part of their speaking, speaking video on LinkedIn? Should they put that up there?
Without a doubt. And that's on a granular piece is in your profile, there's something called a featured section on your LinkedIn. So that's a perfect spot for website, demo reel. And that's really where you're going to get the most eyeballs on your profile. And then, once you start posting more and more, you're going to get 4 times the amount of profile views if you're posting at least 1 time per week. So being able to have that website, that sizzle reel in the featured section, will get more and more eyeballs on it.
What, is there a difference whether you have kind of the LinkedIn, say the free version versus the paid version?
Great question. It's not much difference at all between the premium and the sales navigator. LinkedIn, free version is perfect for what speakers, we need to drive leads, to create conversations. Premium is nice to have to dive deeper into analytics, to send more connection requests, but the free version definitely has more than enough.
What is one of your favorite story brands from one of your favorite speakers that you've worked with?
Let's see. Give me a second on that. I love that question. Actually, no, I know this one is Shola Richards, one of our speakers, who's one of my favorite humans in the world. His story, absolutely incredible. He was bullied in the workplace at his office in Southern California, and he actually ended up trying to take his own life. So in LA, tried to drive off of the bridge. The bridge held. He saved his life, and in that moment, he had an epiphany of, oh my gosh, I can't believe I was going to do this because I was getting bullied in the office. So then he made it his life's mission from that day to bring kindness to the workplace civility, and has become one of the most sought after speakers in the world. And we've helped amplify, we've told those stories on social, and we've gotten messages from people on his LinkedIn, on his Instagram saying, I read your message and I was thinking about doing something drastic, or I was thinking about taking my own life, and your message, seeing you on stage or reading this post helped turn the page. So being able to work with people like Shola, truly makes this work so gratifying. But yeah, a few stories from Shola have been incredibly impactful.
Wow, he'd be a great story for SpeakerLife.
Oh, but I'll holler at him, tell him to get down to Scottsdale, but without a doubt, yeah, Shola's
well, we can always zoom in. We can do it from there too. So how big is storytelling in the SpeakrBrand?
Our number one most powerful piece of content, of course, from stage, but we see it time and time again. We have some data to back it up that stories are, 7 times more impactful and memorable than other pieces of content. But in terms of, if we're talking speaking specifically, an exponential increase in the probability of virality. And a recent example, personal stories, overcoming adversity, handling adversity, like we chatted about, crucial, but then also telling famous, historic pop culture stories that have a through line to your content. Also incredibly powerful. And one post that we made last week for an HR speaker, we wrote a post about Amazon, Jeff Bezos back in the day. They didn't have enough money which is wild to think about.
I know, right?
They didn't have enough money to buy desks, to buy a proper desk.
Wow.
So instead, he bought a door and basically made a makeshift out of a desk. He calls it a door desk, but he bought a door from this hardware store, made a makeshift desk out of that. And that turned into one of their Amazon's core values around frugality and being, gritty and
resourceful,
innovative. And they even have now at Amazon every year they have Door Desk Awards for people being resourceful.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, and that's the story that we told from Maji. She goes by her LinkedIn, and I just checked right before this. It has 3 million impressions, 3,500 likes. So it's the best post that we've ever created. So that's
congratulations.
Thank you. But a great example of a story that is not personal, but it's connected to her brand and her message.
So you bring me to my next question. How does a post like that go viral for a speaker?
I wish I had an answer. There's some posts that we write, we're like, oh my gosh, this is definitely going to go viral and take over the world. And
have you noticed that the ones that you think are just going to land don't, and then the ones that you don't even think about just take off?
Oh, the Jeff Bezos story is a great example. I was like, oh, this post is going to perform well. That the best was ever created, did not expect. But I would say, some key indicators of what's going to perform well is storytelling content, and as personal and vulnerable and real as you can make it. Because one post does come to mind where we were confident it was going to go viral, and it did, but it was the story of a keynote speaker who, ironically enough, left Amazon. He was burnt out. The story is him betting on himself, becoming an entrepreneur, starting his company, becoming a keynote speaker. And that, again, got around 4,000 likes and, 1 million plus impressions. But that vulnerability and that realness, and reading that post, you're almost emotional reading it. So some of that content, we know is going to perform really, really well.
Wow, that is just so amazing. How can people find you?
I tell you, a lot has been referrals in our network so far. I think we're putting ourselves out there so far, but really, I'm so grateful for the speakers that we work with, and our plan is to over deliver with everyone. So people have been incredibly generous in referring their friends and fellow speakers. But we're finally getting active on social ourselves as a brand. So
great.
Fingers crossed to expand the reach.
Conner, this has been a pleasure. Will you come back?
Oh, 1,000%. You'll have me.
All right. I will have you.
Thank you.
Wow. LinkedIn. Who knew? Actually, I did know, but it's better to hear it from the professionals. So if you like this content, I hope that you'll hit the like and subscribe button below. Thanks for watching.